united to adopt apps for all for a global team of civic and civil tech for Iranians.
It's a blessing to be here at RightsCon with other individuals, this community of dedicated individuals working for human rights around the world and using technology for best of its potential to improve lives and enhance civil liberties. This is Narges Mohammadi. She's a mother of 10-year-old twins, Ali and Kiana. She's a human rights defendant, a prominent one in Iran. Because of her activism, standing up to the death penalty, and her work for political prisoners, she received a 10-year sentence. Her charge, collusion against national security. She has lived without her kids for 2 years. There are another 926 political prisoners in Iran's prisons right now that we have documented. Individuals who are in prison for their beliefs, for their ethnicity, for their activism. I want to show you a picture that's a bit jarring. Iran, but I feel it's important to share it. Iran executes more people per capita than any other country in the world. Only second in numbers to China. International construction companies have decided not to sell cranes to Iran. They're used for public hanging. The Baha'is, the most persecuted religious group in Iran, are banned from educating their own children for higher education. And when they choose to have informal universities, they're arrested en masse. Their grave sites are excavated and destroyed. This is Iran. This is why we're fighting. In 2009, we saw the biggest rallies in Iran since the revolution. We also saw a violent backlash by the government. Clearly, the people of Iran want freedom and justice, and the second they had a chance, there were millions of them in the streets. And clearly, the government of Iran will do anything to hold on to power. Shortly after this day, this uprisings in Iran, I decided to organize a global day of action. And hundreds of other citizens, including Tori back there in the room, that's how I met her, joined in. And within 3 weeks, we had events in 110 cities around the world. 110 cities with hundreds of thousands of individuals. And the day turned out to be the biggest day of solidarity for the people of Iran ever in history, before or since. This doesn't have volume, but essentially she goes on to talk about the only continent without a rally, Antarctica. So after this day, I decided to start United for Iran, where we work to improve civil liberties. That's fine. To improve civil liberties in Iran, right? And for the first few years, we did this work mostly through solidarity, amplifying the voices of those inside Iran through demonstrations, social media, and online campaigns. And then a few things happened. One, the movement went into a dormant phase because of the repression inside the country. And we wanted to do our work more systematically, see what was happening more systematically, and do our work more systematically. So in 2011, we launched the Iran Prison Atlas. It's an interactive database, our first technology solution. It's an interactive database of Iran's political prisoners, prisons, and judges. Here you can see the profile of Narges Mohammadi, and you can see profiles of prisons and judges as well. And you can zoom out, so you can look at patterns of abuse. Which are the biggest culprits among the judges? Which ethnic or religious group are being most persecuted? Which prisons have the most mistreatments, and what are those mistreatments? Journalists, the governments, the UN, NGOs, researchers, family members with individuals with loved ones in prison, all use the database. And we get contacted all the time about how unique it is, and people are so excited when they find it. A researcher contacted us, in fact, yesterday. Then, in our constant quest to do this work more effectively, more securely, more efficiently, we ask ourselves a few questions. One, Mehdi, who runs the Atlas, all he does all day, every day, is research torture and executions. It's hard, dark work. And we're not going to win just fighting back what's bad. How do we create the vision we want to see in the world and build on that? And how do we have fun doing this work? It's important. Two, Yes, we want to defend Iran's political prisoners and human rights defenders, but how do we engage hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of Iranian civil society members, individuals who are interested in engaging but not taking so much risk in areas that's of interest to them? And three, how do we do this work effectively when we can't go back to Iran? More than half of my staff are individuals who are refugees, who have firsthand experienced Iran's harassment, imprisonment, and even torture, right? And I, myself, have been called an anti-revolutionary fugitive. And I think that's a pretty badass title, so I put it on my business card. So, Iran for us is a bit like Hotel California. We could go back, but likely we would not be able to leave. So, our answer to all of these questions is technology, specifically civic mobile technology. Last year at RightsCon, I launched our Iran incubator called Iran Incubator, through which we're building a dozen or so apps with communities. We're supporting communities to build a dozen or so apps, all to be used for good inside the country. This is Niloufar. She is a champion soccer player named as Lady Goal and captain of her soccer team. In 2015, she had plans to participate in the Asian Championship for soccer. And her husband forbid her from going. In Iran, when you get married, you surrender your rights to your husband. Right to work, to continue education, to leave the country, to get divorced, to keep custody of your child. You have to pick between a bad marriage sometimes and your child. I cannot imagine. So we did something about that. Turns out there's an app for that. We built it through Iran Incubator. So there's an app called Hamdam, which means companionship, and it's a one-stop shop for learning about sexual health, about your legal rights, and maintaining your dignity if you're an Iranian woman. You can see your menstruation calendar is part of the app. It's the only one in Persian. This information is still a bit taboo and hard to come by. There's a section on sexual health. This section here is on contraceptives, condoms in particular in this section. You scroll down and you see information about STDs and breast exams. And more pertinent to the conversation we're having now is this section, women's rights in marriage. I'm going to click here on right to leave the country. And in this section, you'll learn about your rights, and here you can read sample, oops, I pressed the wrong button, back. There we go. Anyway, there's a section there where you can have the sample language that you can put into your marriage license, after which you keep your rights if you have that language before you get married. It's a bit of a prenup, if you will. This app was downloaded 10,000 times in 3 weeks. We're super excited. The whole team is really, really excited. So Hamdam is one reason we believe technology works in Iran. Here are some other reasons. One, the infrastructure exists. Half the country have smartphones, and 1 million new ones are being added every month. Two, the country is really young. 70% of the country is under the age of 35. I'm usually the elder in the room when I'm with my fellow Iranian activists, for real. And the country is techie by necessity. To access Facebook or Twitter, you have to use proxies. Finally, the government of Iran tries to keep its citizens back centuries, but Iranians are globally minded and democratically leaning. In case of women, for example, upwards of 70% of individuals entering universities for science and technology are women. There are 3 million Iranian women over the age of 30 who have chosen not to get married. Divorce and white marriage or living out of wedlock is commonplace. So although we have this veneer of conservatism in Iran and oppression, there's a modern country under it waiting to shine through. And these men, these fanatics, are maybe 10% of the countries with their cronies, and they control the media, the institutions, the education. And I believe in technology because it allows the other 90% to take their country back. Where they cannot organize and assemble in the streets, they can do it online. Yet, with all of this potential, our apps have been the first apps for good inside the country. So we're learning as we go. And essentially, we're doing whatever it takes to make each app successful, from development to design to dissemination. Same as the first group of speakers, we deeply believe in working with and not for our communities. These apps ideally are extension of the work already happening on the ground and empowering those doing this work to do their work more effectively. Sudha John sitting here, Sudha Raj, is a fierce and established women's rights activist, has been doing this work for years, and essentially this app has been done with her, it's her idea, and we've helped her make it happen. Helps with the sustainability of the app, with the dissemination of the app. I also want to take a moment to talk about our biggest partner in the app, the team ASL 19. They build the back end of Hamdam and have so much ownership of the app. I'm so blessed, Habibi, to have you as one of our partners, our main partner. Apps are only useful if you can read them, so we try as much as we can not to have the apps just encouraging when we have the capacity. All the apps are open source, and the ones that are sensitive get security audit, independent security audits. And then the government of Iran puts hurdles in our path. We would not expect anything less from them. In fact, if they were not doing that, we were probably doing something wrong. So we do what we can to be creative and mitigate challenges that come up. For example, we embed proxies in the apps that get blocked. Or if we think some app is going to have government individuals sitting in their offices and putting in bad data, then we make sure that if it has a geolocation feature, the input can be done only within a certain limited section. Apps are only useful if they're used. So dissemination and engagement is probably the biggest part of the work once the apps are launched. Did you know that there are 20 million Telegram users in Iran? That's 25% of all Telegram users. So we built Telegram bots, so if an individual wants to doesn't want to download the app but wants to use the features, they still have that ability. I want to take a minute before I finish to talk about, no, actually I want to say something else first. So I want to do my last demo, if you're ready for it. 173 out of 180 is Iran's ranking for Press Freedom Index from Reporters Without Borders. We rank top 6 jailers of journalists since 2008. And freedom of expression is the lifeline of democracy. So the next app I'm going to talk about is essentially about freedom of expression. It's kind of like SoundCloud for Iranians. And it's a platform where individuals can have channels to broadcast what they want to share and receive content, right? And data is very expensive on data. So this app says, listen on, download at home, listen on the go. There are 5 languages. And I'm going to go through this section, which is the channels. There are podcasts, audiobooks, there's news. Here I'm subscribing to BBC version. And this is aptly named Taboo, and it's a very popular channel, radio station that focuses on things like female orgasm and independent Kurdish state. This has been downloaded, this app, in the last 5 or 6 weeks, 5,000 times, and its stars and reviews are quite high. I think it's near 5, hovering near 5. And I'm happy to talk about the other apps that are down the pipeline. It's at RightsCon anytime you like. So one of them is like Yelp for government accountability and transparency. Another one is for the 2.2 million drug users in Iran. And another one, what's the third one? Drug users that, I'll come back if I remember. I want to take a moment to talk about the current state of the world, in particular in my other home country, the US. We may have the tendency right now to want to drop everything and focus on what we feel is an assault on humanity, our environment, and our government. I argue that that's not what we should be doing. We should be fighting back and fighting hard and fighting every day, and as if our lives depend on it, and it does. And we need to continue our fights and build the momentum that we've built for decades around the world, because that matters too. What happens in Iran has global implications. We won in the US with the so-called Muslim ban because we were pissed. We were in the streets, we were at the airports, we called our congresspersons like never before, and the media is relatively independent in the US, right? And US is escalating in some ways politically with Iran, and militarily, the writing's on the wall. If there's a country they might pick, that would be it. And if we want to avoid that potentially, empowering Iranians so they too can express themselves and organize if they need to is critical. Iranians desperately want to be part of the global community, and they desperately want peace. Also, it's not a one-way street. Iranians have, unfortunately, tons of experience that could be really useful in the US right now. When I first started this work, I really wasn't sure how much impact we could have from outside, right? We're outside the country trying to make change. And over time, I've learned that not only can we have impact, there's certain work that we only can do from the outside because of capacity, because of capacity and security. We have documented 2,000 cases of political prisoners. It's taken us 7,000 hours. And we have a dozen apps we're building over 2 years, and we have secure servers that the government don't own. This work is not easy. In fact, I often go gray. I've colored it for you guys. And a lot of it is because of the fundraising work I have to do. But I'm not going to prison for this work. Not only can we have impact, I believe that we have the mandate and the moral duty to do what we can to support those inside Iran. Thank you so much.